colleges for about 10 years. And then in 2021, I became a professor here. I am the presently I am the MURP coordinator since its inception in 2019. uh, so I basically am an architect and an urban planner. I have done my master's from IIT Kharagpur and my PhD from there itself. And I believe that GCA has a very strong alumni base, not only in architecture but planning as well. So this is the first my interaction with the alumni base of GCA with the planning background, and I hope that this will be immense help to all of us. And it will be especially to me because I need to have externals for different juries, so I can now approach you without any hesitations. So
All right.
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
And I would also like to say that I like to approach all of you that no, the next, I think next 10 years to 15 years is of urban planning and design, more rather than architecture, pure architecture, what we say, because now there is a lot of diversification in the field. And as a training and placement coordinator, also, I see that MURP students are placed almost 100%. So we are running this course for very successfully for last 4 years along with other MR courses. uh, so I think there should be a this thing with association with the alumni base, especially who are working in the planning field, so that we can take the students to the sites and give them a real time experience of what urban planning projects are, because that is what is very important, because it's a teamwork, it's not a individual work. And so I look forward for your association in the same. And I wish everybody thank everybody to come here, and I wish that this is a very big success together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining in from Calcutta, even though you're outdoors, and for such a lovely welcome. And I think we're very happy to help in whatever ways we can. So reach out to us. I think I'll also pass on all our emails and contacts. LinkedIn contacts are already there in the poster in the PDF version, but we'll also forward our phone numbers and emails so you can reach out to us directly any time that you need our help or guidance. Thank you so much, Dr. Banerjee. And
Thank you. Thank you.
and I think architect Atul Gupta ji has also joined, if I'm not mistaken.
Good morning, Jiten.
Good morning, sir. Welcome.
Good
And
morning,
thank you
sir.
so much. We can see that
Good
you are
morning, good
driving.
morning.
Hi, morning, Atul sir. How are you?
Good morning, Aji. How are you? I'm good.
Sir, we can't see you.
मैं 1 मिनट में करता हूँ आपको दोबारा से. I will दोबारा connect.
Okay. Okay.
So yes, so Jiten sir, you can also see the number of people who have joined in the
24, yes. So far,
yes,
total
so
24
that's
people.
how we can count, and it's being recorded, so it's okay.
Okay, wonderful.
So I'll share
The poster, yes. Just make it full screen, please, if you wish to share. Manju's been able to join, and we can see her Vanarsera behind her as well. Cool. So have you pulled over? Are you driving, or you pulled over?
Hi, hello everyone. I'll be joining in, on and off. I'm around.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
I'm on the call.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So I guess all the panelists are here. Amita has informed us that she'd be able to join a little late, but all the panelists are here, so that's great.
Yeah, sorry, Jitendra, I had to log back again.
No worries, sir. Thank you so much. This is all a result of how you prompted us in December and saying ki kya kar rahe ho yaar? I mean, you'll just come, eat, drink, and make merry, and that's not the kind of reunion you wanted. And we should do a year-long celebration, year-long value addition. And I think वो करते करते 5 महीना लग गया to sort of all come on a platform to work together, I think. But thank you so much for the inspiration and motivation and the push that you gave us. If you hadn't, I think we'd all be sitting in our silos and only worry for about the final dates.
No, Jitendra. It is a wonderful teamwork that I am seeing, and I am happy that you are celebrating the year instead of a
Yes,
date or a day,
yes,
and that is the best part. And the best part again, the second best part is that you are giving it back to the college in terms of information, in terms of knowledge sharing, in terms of lot many things that we all should be giving, and that
right.
we all are
Thank
trying to do. I'm really thankful to every one of you, Manju, Sonal, Mohit. I can see a lot of people, and Anjane had been the backbone of all these activities, always like that. So great. I think time is almost there. You can start the program now. As to how many students are there?
So total
Anjane.
30 people, total 30 participants at this moment, including faculty, students, and panelists.
So then let us wait for some time so that students join. Anjane, students के ग्रुप में एक बार डालो मैसेज.
We were having a conversation amongst
Yeah.
ourselves.
हाँ मतलब पहले हम लोग आपस में कर लें, हमारी पोल ना खुले वहां पर. बात ठीक है.
So the
Okay.
bad thing is they are recording everything.
नहीं नहीं ऐसा कुछ नहीं है.
See, I strongly believe that there is no junior, no senior. These young students will be architects and will be practicing with us, and that is the beauty of this profession. And you know what? The best part of our college is the strong bond between the seniors and juniors. ये जो है ये missing है most of the colleges में. Our college is one where we have this strong bond.
So
Yes,
we
sir.
like to think that way. I mean, not them being a student and I being teacher. So they, I mean, we, yes. So they are joining. I think within 5 minutes, most of them will join. But we can start. I will let them enter.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lakshya, moderator from
Lakshya,
Students
good
Forum.
morning, beta.
Good morning, sir. Sudhir sir wants to say something. I think you have raised your hand. Please, sir, go ahead.
Hi, Sudhin.
You may have the tendency to look at a video. If you can shut it off, it's perfectly fine with all of us. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Just please be loud and clear because your voice is not very audible.
Definitely, sir. I'll try. I'll try.
Thank you. Over to you, Lakshya.
Thank you so much, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Jitendra, Lakshya, एक minute. Jitendra, I will
Yes,
introduce
sir.
Lakshya to all of you. He had been one
Sure.
person who had supported us like anything in the last general body meeting that we organized, or the last 25th year celebration that we organized last year at GCA Lucknow. And thank you, Lakshya. We could not talk after that, but then it was we all appreciate what you have done for the
Thank you so much, sir.
event.
It's been an honor. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you, Lakshya.
Okay, so I think let us now start session.
Okay, okay.
Good morning, everyone. So we are really glad to have our very first discussion panel, and I'm really thankful to our patrons, Dr. Vandana Sehgal, Dr. Ritu Gulati, architect Atul Gupta, and our coordinator, Dr. Anjana Sharma, who have been a really great opportunity, who have been a really great opportunity for us to allow and experience what the panelists have in common, what the architects around the world or alumni have it in common to share with us like, their experiences, their life journey, so that we can also get the limelight, we can also get the guardians around where to go around, what to do. So it's been a really nice thing. I'm really thankful to all of the alumni, all of the teachers, faculties, everybody who has been a part of it, who has given us the opportunity to let it happen. Along with this, I would also like to thank our panelist, architect Amita, Dr. Ashish, Dr. Manju, architect Dhiren, Suninder, and architect Mohit. So thank you so much, sir, for taking out precious time for us to let us know and deliver your thoughts over and your opinions over on the certain topic, which has been really motivating for us, which could be really fascinating which could be guiding for us also. Let us now start with the session. So I would really like to introduce our moderator, architect Sonal. She is an environment management and sustainability consultant in Dubai. After graduating, architect Sonal worked for more than 11 years as a full-time environmental professional with private manufacturing units and on government infrastructure projects. With industries, she has worked on environmental management systems, occupational health and safety management systems, supply chain management, greenhouse gas accounting, life cycle assessment of products and processes, and EHS due diligence. With municipal bodies, she was involved in municipal solid waste management and hazardous waste management projects. She has also actively conducted capacity building, training, and awareness programs of various EHS aspects. Currently, she works as a full-time stock trader and investor in the Indian and the US market, involved in most of the active trading strategies. Ma'am, a very good morning to you. I would really like to take charge from here and let this session happen.
I'm,
Sonal, you are on mute.
Sorry about this. Good morning. Thank you, Lakshay, and good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to this first panel discussion in a series of panels planned by our batch of 98. Uh, this series is an attempt to share our journey of 25 years with all of you, and in the process, educate future architects of the myriad possibilities and avenues that are open to them once they step out of the college. So each panel will address a different field, which our batchmates have explored or are still exploring. But Lakshay, you've already thanked the patrons, but I would, on behalf of batch of 1998, I would still like to thank them again. I would like to thank Dr. Vandana Sehgal, Dr. Ritu Gulati, Shri Atul Gupta ji, Dr. Anjanaya Sharma in making this possible. And we hope that our batch is able to give back to our alma mater. But so today's topic of discussion, demystifying planning. The discussion is led by my distinguished batchmates working in the field. Fortunately, we have a batch of professionals who have explored different domains of planning, be it urban and regional planning, transport planning, environmental planning, and housing. So here we bring a mix of planners to this forum. Amita, a senior consultant at Cube IIT Madras, has experience in urban planning, design and development. Some of her notable work is in tourism, transportation, urban conservation, and water resources management. She has also been pursuing her academic interests, being a visiting educator at some reputed universities. I think Amita is yet to join, but she'll be joining in 10. Oh, Amita is here. Hi, Amita.
Hi.
Yeah. Dr. Ashish Gupta, he is an associate professor and director, research and consulting at Rick School of Built Environment at MIT University, Noida. He is an academician and a real estate professional. He was among the early real estate professionals who formulated property valuation and market research practices using his domain expertise of urban planning and architecture. Hello, welcome, Dr. Ashish Gupta. Dr. Manju is a senior urban planner at Aegis Group, Dubai. She has experience in national, regional, and city strategies. development plans, technical urban studies, and multi-dimensional urban research with strong focus on sustainability, integrated planning, policy, and governance. Welcome, Dr. Manju. She is driving with some kids on board in her car, so she'll be on and off. Sudhindra is a consultant and a front-end strategic advisor in transport sector with experience in urban transport, highway concessions, metro rail, and rail line development. His areas of expertise include techno-commercial feasibility, demand revenue modeling, and project valuation. Welcome, Sudhindra. Mohit is an engineering design manager at Parsons Corporation, St. Louis, USA. He has expertise in government infrastructure planning, industrial master planning, design and project management. He has worked on comprehensive plans, sub-area plans, master plans, and zoning updates for municipal communities. Welcome, Mohit.
Thank you, Sonal.
So, my first question to all of you is how and why did you shift from B-Arch to planning? What was the motive behind it? You wanted to broaden your horizon, or was it a shift from architecture? Over to you, Amita.
Thank you so much, Sonal. It is a pleasure speaking to all of you. It's been 25 years since we graduated, and really, I mean, it is always nice to go back to our alma mater. So, yes, I would like to share a little bit of my journey onto this, before answering to Sonal's question. So, after architecture, in my architecture itself, I was interested in urban design. So, my thesis was on urban design. I did a street redesign. During that time, I came across, how our cities are affected by the buildings we make, right? So in that sense, architecture affects the built environment in a huge way. Uh, in in the process, the built environment affects the architecture. So that in that symbiosis interested me a lot. After which I trained with the architect B.V. Doshi and got exposed to a lot more issues surrounding city planning. And I was always concerned with urban infrastructure, how our infrastructure is poor in many cases, still is. We are working on it, and we will continue to work on it and improve it, take it to the developed countries levels. So this is where I found my interest, and I kind of joined urban planning at CEPT. So this has been, my motivating factor to start looking at a broader horizon, at a broader concept of city planning. In Within CEPT, I found my interest in transportation and urban infrastructure, and continuing that, I went into PPP. It was just starting at that point, 20 years, 25 years ago. I was one of the first to work in the PPP sector, so I'm blessed to work for that. And I mean, I would like others to also share their journeys around this question. But yes, for me, it was a continuing education from architecture to city planning to, broadening my horizons into urban infrastructure.
Ashish, for you, what was it like?
Thank you so thank you so much, Sonal. And it's a pleasure to be present amongst my batchmates after 25 years on the same panel, and also to interact with my alma mater, my juniors, new upcoming architects. Okay, for me, after I graduated from GCA, and we used to call it GCA at that time, and that is what I like to address it even today. After graduating from GCA, I went and did my training in Ahmedabad with architect Nilkan Chaya. At that time, a lot of our batchmates started moving into planning. So I was at that time not very clear what I want to do. So I, for 1 year, continued work with Professor Nilkan Chaya, and subsequently, I would rather say, looking at a lot of my batchmates moving to planning also created a kind of peer pressure for me, and I moved into planning. So after doing planning, once I was at CEPT and I was doing planning, I was very clear what I wanted to do subsequently, and I got interested into real estate. That is one sector I felt it had a lot of potential. India was modernizing, a lot of investment was coming, it was supposed to come into real estate. So that really fascinated me, and I did my dissertation in that, and I moved into real estate. So I moved from architecture, widened my horizon towards planning, which encompasses all urban development, a lot of other things. And then I went back on a smaller subsection of that, which I will call real estate. And that is where I started working. In the initial part of my career, for about 8 years, I worked with Jones Lang LaSalle. Subsequently, I headed property services for a couple of large wealth management companies in India. And now, for last about 8 years, I've been in academics. So I would say architecture planning has a lot of relationship with whatever happens in the urban canvas domain, and I used all my experience in what I was educated to work in real estate sector. So that was my journey. Thank you so much for asking that, Sonal.
Thank you, Ashish. Sudhin, you are on mute.
Yeah, so the folly is this time mine. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And it's wonderful to be amongst old friends. Would love if it were in person, but nonetheless. So, what happened with me was that we were a gang of boys, and उसमें से मोहित चल दिया अहमदाबाद, विशाल चल दिया अहमदाबाद. He will be joining this panel after a couple of episodes. एंड देन आशीष चल दिया अहमदाबाद. तो अब सुधींद्र क्या करें, सुधींद्र भी चल दिया अहमदाबाद, पीछे पीछे लटक लिए. There I worked with a couple of architects as a part of my training. But ये सब जाते थे सेप्ट, तो मैं भी जाने लगा सेप्ट. And there I realized that there is a world beyond architecture, which is called planning. So what I eventually did was that I took a break of 1 year. I explored and tried to figure out planning में भी कौन सा stream है which would fascinate me. I realized कि यार architecture में तो drawing बहुत ज़्यादा बनाना पड़ता है. Initial years में तो design नहीं मिलता है, drawing बनानी पड़ती है. And drawing was something उस time CAD वगैरह तो होता नहीं था. You had to do everything by hand. तो मैंने कहा यार ये मेरे बस का नहीं है. Let us try and figure out something where the drawing work is the least. And as luck would have it, transport planning is one of the branches जहाँ पे drawing work बहुत कम है. There are several other things that you have to do except the drawing work. And there is also a lot of analytics involved. There are a lot of specialized software involved. There are interesting projects in the domains of urban transport, metro rail. I got the opportunity to work on a bus terminal project. So there I got the exposure to this wonderful stream called transport planning. और हमने कहा चलते हैं हम इसी में masters करेंगे. So that's the way it happened with me. It was not a pre-planned decision. दोस्तों के साथ पहुंचे थे अहमदाबाद, वहाँ पे कुछ हुआ और ultimately आज यहाँ पहुंच गए. That's the way it was for me.
Thank you, Sudhin. Very truthful description of how you reached planning, how you how you started your planning journey. Over to you, Mohit.
Thank you, Sonal, and thank you, everyone, entire faculty, and all my friends here, and also listening to their true story behind their career path is also pretty encouraging and very refreshing to hear. So for me, जब जैसे सुधीन भी जैसे बोला कि जब कॉलेज से निकले तो एक एम था कि आई हैव टू डू सम फर्दर स्टडीज. ये था कि किस में करनी है. Then I talked to architect Rajat Kant at that time because I wanted to go abroad also. And then he introduced me to another professor from University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Her name is Amita Sinha. So she was a professor in landscape architecture here in US. तो वो fortunately वो लखनऊ आई हुई थी. Then I met her. I talked to her. I said, hey, I like kind of urban design. I wanted to do something in urban design. And so she, kind of talk to a little bit more. Then she suggested me to apply in landscape architecture career in US because landscape architecture program in many states, at least in many universities, they are very much aligned with the urban design. तो उन्होंने कुछ यूनिवर्सिटी सजेस्ट करी तो मैंने अप्लाई किया. देन आई डिड माय मास्टर्स इन लैंडस्केप आर्किटेक्चर फ्रॉम मिनेसोटा. तो शिफ्ट हुए लैंडस्केप आर्किटेक्चर में. एंड देन अब कहानी है कि लैंडस्केप आर्किटेक्चर से प्लानिंग में कैसे पहुंचे. तो लैंडस्केप आर्किटेक्चर यूएस में काफ़ी कुछ प्लानिंग एंड लैंडस्केप आर्किटेक्चर दे शेयर same kind of projects and also same kind of clients too. And some of these projects they require both landscape architecture and planners together, work in tandem, and then come up with a solution. So उससे ही ऐसे ही projects में, like I was playing my landscape architecture role, planners were playing the planners role. Then that's how I got introduced with urban planning. And तो ऐसे सब जो जो projects होते हैं, like some of them are really large scale projects. So ऐसे, you just kind of raise up uh, in your career, and then you become a PM, and then you manage the whole project, and then you have to know a little bit more about urban planning, and that's how I got more into urban planning. So for a very long span, for at least 6 to 7 years, I like specifically did like urban planning work. So that's how I got into it. That's
Thank
my
you,
journey.
Mohit. Yeah, interesting to know how you came from landscape architecture to planning. Over to you, Manju.
Thank you, Sonal. And first of all, thank you everyone for this platform. I think the GCA nostalgia is already kicking in, and happy to share our moments here. For me, very specifically, Sonal, I think I wanted to move away from architecture. It was very clear to me when I was doing my training that I would want to look beyond architecture. I didn't want to practice it, and planning was one of the things in on radar, but I was also looking towards product design. And I had applied for product design in SPA, and I had applied for planning in SEPT. And there was a period of time when I had both admissions in my hand, and I had to decide. You know, they give you a few weeks to decide, accept the offer, etc. And I was talking to my peers, some seniors, friends, family, but eventually, it's a decision that you need to do on your own. Nobody can decide. And they were very vast in terms of the scope and scale. Product design is something detail oriented design work, and planning is at a very larger scale. So eventually, what helped me to decide for planning was my love for environment, my love for nature. I had applied for environmental planning in SEPT. In fact, we were, I think, five of us who joined SEPT at that time for planning. All the rest were joining urban and regional planning because that's the most natural way to enter into planning with architecture background, because that matches our skill set the closest. However, I was more bent towards environment. I used to read about Agenda 21, and it used to inspire me. I didn't know at that time deeply what it was, but it sort of inspired me that yes, somebody is talking about taking care of the planet, and environment seems like the place to go in. So that made my decision clearer, and I joined SIP. Thank you.
Thank you, Manju. Very interesting journey of all of you. So, कुछ लोग आर्किटेक्चर से पीछा छुड़ाने के लिए आ गए प्लानिंग में, और कुछ लोग ग्रेजुअली आ गए प्लानिंग में. Gradually, like Mohit and Amita, and Ashish would fall somewhere in between, where he did planning consciously, and then he shifted to real estate, whereas Sudhin and Manju are clear cases of running away from architecture, so as to say. uh, so now coming to you, Mohit, again. So you did landscape architecture and then you came into planning. So did you feel at any stage, because you were trained in planning on the job, so did you feel at any stage that lack of formal education in planning pose any kind of hindrances or roadblock in advancing your career?
Um, yes, that is correct. So it did pose some kind of a restriction, or not I wouldn't say like a restriction, but more of a like lack of understanding of that profession. Um, since you're not formally trained, then you don't know where why those issues are, uh, and also like working in US, trying to understand US culture, uh, like US political system. So those things actually take some time. So that was a hindrance in my career. But you know what, I soon you realize like you cannot do like masters in everything, right? So you kind of say, okay, you do, you know, where you are good at it, but then in your team you need to make sure that you have somebody who's trained to do that. So that's how I kind of played like that. I said, okay, once I realized, I say, okay, there is so much I could do in planning, but then if I have a good team member, or at least a team who I can train, or you know, find a trained person already, then we can move the project forward. तो वो approach जब समझ में आई, तो you know, that made the life much more easier afterwards. But yes, definitely जो जो आपकी formal education है उसका कोई substitute नहीं है. um, but somehow like the kind of projects we were doing, we could never survive on just one type of projects. So we have to be very very adaptable. We have to be very very um, uh, like you know, open to any kind of projects you get, and then you just have to, you know, you just have to make it work. So that was my approach.
Yeah, so that is the practical aspect of it. So we are
Yes.
seeing cases where people were sure that what they want to do, like for example Amita, and to a great extent Mohit, you were also sure right from the beginning that you wanted to do landscape architecture or you wanted to do further studies, and like Amita was also sure that she wanted to move to urban planning. Whereas we have cases like Ashish, Sudhindra, and Manju, who took their time and then they decided, okay, they explored for a year, they understood as to what is their liking, and then they took the plunge of going into the planning field. So everything has their pros and cons, and then comes the real life, like you faced after doing landscape design, that you shifted into planning. So anyway, good that we have a mix of such varied experiences. Now, coming to you, Ashish, how do you think? Because when we hear real estate, it sounds very different. It doesn't sound the moment you hear the word real estate, it is like, okay, so are you an architect and planner? And how did you shift from a hardcore real estate stream from doing architecture and planning? So, how did your education support this shift? What value addition you bring to this domain, being an architect and planner?
Sure. Uh, Thank you so much, Sonal. I think it's a very interesting question. And so, as I already spoken and we were talking about, I moved from architecture, took some time to decide, moved into planning. In planning, while I was there, I realized that in fact, my dissertation topic was also on real estate. And by that time, I was clear that I wanted to be in real estate. Uh, Very interestingly, what I have seen even at so what happens in real estate is where there is lot of synergies from architecture and planning. At our time, there was no formal education in real estate, and what I have seen, all the senior professionals who are there are either architect or planner, because they understand how cities are growing. How, for example, in real estate, you are looking at the building, you are doing something with the building. What is the FAR? How's the loading? So many things which have synergy with architecture, and so many things which have synergy with planning, because in which direction city is growing, what will happen in future. So as a consultant, as an advisor in real estate, you have to preempt how city will expand, what things will happen, and that is how you create value. And also in real estate, so there is a lot of synergy from both these domains. For me, how when I moved to real estate, it was very natural, because when I went, in fact, very interestingly, in my first interview, my boss, who again was an architect, urban planner, he just asked very simple questions about architecture, planning, and he said, "Okay, boss, तेरे से तो कुछ नहीं पूछना. You start coming from tomorrow." And very interestingly, Sonal, I'd like to share one thing. Uh, when I was in SEPT, I realized there was hardly any in SEPT in 2001, there were companies who were coming for placement, infrastructure, and various other domains, but there was none for real estate. So I went out, I outreached, met a couple of people who were in the industry, and just knowing that I'm an architect and I'm a planner, I was the first person in my batch to get placed. So I think it is not just that I we feel there is synergy, industry also feel there is so much of synergy. In fact, today firms like JLL, CBRE, etc., they pick so many architects, so many planners from SEPT, SP, etc. So I clearly see there is so much of synergy. In fact, if any of our present batch people or students want any clarity, want to understand how these domains work, so might be we can have a independent session and we can have one-to-one discussion with them also.
Thank you, Ashish. Interesting to hear your story. So, coming to you, Amita. Now, not many people know that you have done various hats in these 25 years, and you have shifted many locations, geographical locations, because of family reasons. So, you have been an urban planner, of course, and you have been an academician, you have also been an entrepreneur, you have been a financial consultant. So, how did you manage so many domains, and what was the contribution? Obviously, the formal education you have is in architecture and planning. So, how do you think that all these shifts came about and how your education helped?
Yes. Just to put in perspective very quickly the chronology of events. So, while in SEPT, I worked in IIM Ahmedabad as a research associate. That was my first shift, I would say. My formal guide was from SEPT, but my informal guide was Professor Sebastian Morris from IIM Ahmedabad. I took economics classes from him and understood the economics of urban infrastructure. That helped me understand how economy works and how urban infrastructure contributes to the economy or not contribute to the economy, depending on the delays that we were facing in the public sector projects. That ultimately led me towards the PPP, which was gaining momentum at that time. And I got in touch with the premier most institution at that point. Now, I mean, it has dissolved, but ILNFS. I joined their project development wing as an urban planner. For me, it was a first. For SEPT, it was a first that somebody as an urban planner has joined an organization like ILNFS. After that, ILNFS approached SEPT very regularly, and it opened up very many doorways for SEPT in terms of placements and everything else. After ILFS, the family transitions happened and got married and things like that. Moved to Singapore. Singapore, you were mentioning, certain professional roadblocks were there. They did not recognize the Indian degrees at that point. So my architecture degree as became invalid, and so did my planning degree because it was based on the formal graduation. That led me to think and rethink on, what can I do, because I'm somebody who would want to do something. So I went back to my original interest of handicrafts, and looked at how I can help the Indian handicraft industry grow. And Singapore is a very small market, but that helped me to understand the dynamics of Indian handicraft sector. And I came back. I visited several villages and contacted several artisans who were working in extreme poverty, and then marketed, packaged their products, and created a market in Singapore. And that was my 6 years of my entrepreneurship, which I'm very proud of, because I did help a few artisans come out of certain, to at least to a certain extent, from poverty. So that was the entrepreneurship era. Then we had to, again for family reasons, move to UK, wherein I started looking at financial advisory. I had an economics background. I did a small course, and then I joined Barclays Bank. So that was in the UK. Then after a year or so, we came back to India. I started again in terms of how I should grow myself professionally. I joined Amity University as a faculty in architecture, and after that we again moved to Chennai, wherein I again joined as a faculty in School of Architecture and Planning, Anna University. That led me somehow to come in contact with IIT Madras and their center, which was just starting at that point in time in 2017, which is Center for Urbanization, Buildings and Environment. I joined there as a senior consultant in urban planning and transportation, and since then I have helped them set up this organization and bring it to where it is now. So it's been 6 years with Cube. So this has been my journey in terms of how architecture planning has helped me here. I think one thing the architecture field set me for was grit and determination. And what planning set me for was a broader understanding of issues which were plaguing our country, our environment, our built environment in particular. So handicraft was, originating from that issue as well, because we could see that our artisans were facing kind of extinction in terms of several arts and crafts. So I would say that the journey has been interesting for me. It has been a very enriching journey for me myself as a professional. I have grown through my travels. I think when I came back to India, I could see where we could pitch in tourism sector and infrastructure sector. What can we do? Because of the formal education and planning, I could see how developed countries move across in terms of their infrastructure development. So I would say that everything contributed to what I am today. And I'm certainly enriched by the entire experience that happened. At that some point, it felt like professionally I'm not doing what I was meant to do, but I think where I am now, I was meant to be here.
Thank you, Mita. Very interesting journey. Thank you for sharing it with us. Um, Sudhindra, you did your MBA later on. Now, what was the reason after you found your calling in transport? Why did you do MBA? And was it because there was a roadblock in your career, or you just wanted to expand your horizons further? What was the reason? Sudhin,
Unmute yourself, please.
Thank you, Sonal. I would say both the reasons were correct. So there was a roadblock as far as career progression was concerned, and also PPP had become the buzzword in the infrastructure sector. PPP stands for public-private partnerships. Amita had an early exposure to that. I had a late exposure. But having said that, no PPP, because it involves both the public as well as the private sector, there's a lot of financing element involved. And neither architecture nor planning teaches you anything about finance. Even project finance is not covered. And when you have to do PPP projects and it is something which is an upcoming stream, you have to re-equip yourself. So I had the option of taking some courses and equipping myself, and I also had the option of taking a sabbatical and going in for a full-time course. And ultimately, I realized that there's no harm in taking a sabbatical and pursuing a full-time program, because an MBA not just makes you richer in your particular industry, but it also adds a lot of uh, industry neutrality. Also, you can go to other industries, and once you have been into a little bit of architecture and more of planning, you see so many things happening around you, because then you are not just limited to design, you are exposed to so many other facets. And especially engagement with the private sector also exposes you to the business side of things. So my reason was twofold. One was to re-equip myself in the domain in which I was working, and also to make myself acceptable across industries as a business manager. So that was the reason.
Thank you, Sudhin. Yeah, very valid point. Manju, what was it like for you? You have also shifted within the country, outside the country, and you have always been able to find work and be there in the industry. So, how do you think your education of environmental planning helped you in making these shifts easier or finding work at different places?
Yes, Sonal. So I think it was mainly because I was a planning professional that I could adapt so well into different situations and different geographies, and also into the different parallels of planning. So I started with environmental assessments, proper environmental planning work, moved to urban planning. Also did real estate. I think Ashish is the industry expert here right now, but I spent 5 years in real estate feasibility consulting, etc. I also did urban management, where we used to train city managers, mayors, etc., to showing them best practices, how to deal about their city's issues. Then I moved to research and urban sustainability research. I did my PhD there. This also helped me, smoothly transit into the Singapore professional scene as a researcher. I worked on a prestigious research going on at that time with which was a collaboration between Singaporean and Chinese government into sustainability indicators, and eventually then wherever I went, I could mold myself easily into urban planning sort of. So as I'm saying that once you become a planner, you become like water. You sort of make out your way and flow yourself around the barriers. And as earlier one of the panelists was speaking that the planning is so multidimensional. We already have like people from infrastructure, transportation. It's but once you become a planner, you know how to move around and adapt to difficult situations or something. If something extra or something difficult is coming your way, you can always move around because planning has multiple layers. It has plan making, it has strategy making, it has policy making. It also provides you going back to architecture or let's say as Ashish talked about real estate. Um, there are immense possibilities that you can because once you're trained as an architect and a planner, a lot of things you can move around with. So training and planning helped me to adapt, to different situations that life presented itself with.
Okay, thank you. Ashish, you want to add something?
Yeah, thank you. Just to add to what what Manju said and what Sudhim said, I would also say architecture and planning as profession trains you for various aspects to deal with real life situation. For example, in architecture, as an architect, we have to do everything from a start to end of a project. So architecture and planning also make you give you a 360-degree perspective on various things and also make you give you skills of entrepreneurship, and that helps you uh, in real life situation, and that is what also helped me a lot in my career in real estate.
So, as you can say, I have got five true planners with me who are selling planning. I'm sure they're not getting any cuts from planning faculty or planning schools, but then they are true planners and it's based on their first hand experience or 25 years of experience in the field. And coming to you, Mohit, um, you have been throughout. So right from 19, I think you left for US in 1998 or 1999, and you have been there. You have studied there. You have worked there. So what do you think? You did then you did landscape architecture. So obviously you topped your architecture education with masters in the US. So right now in the present world, what do you think for future architects of GCA? They should do masters in India and then go abroad, or they should go, if they want to work abroad, they should study abroad and then continue staying there, or they should study abroad, come back to India, give back to the country. What do you think, based on your practical experience, as to what is the best approach if one wants to enhance his or her education, or if one wants to have a you can say a more global experience?
All right. Okay. So I think you have asked several questions in this one question.
Yeah.
So let me try to kind of synthesize this here in different layers. So I mean, there is no system like that. This system is best. You know, everybody thinking is different. Somebody who wants to live abroad, then they have a different approach. Somebody who wants to learn from abroad and then want to come back. So I'm gonna like maybe pick up one by one.
Sorry,
So let's
I'll not I just want to clarify one thing. See, studying abroad is not cheap, so as to say.
right.
It's an investment. So when a student at architecture level or graduation level is taking decision, and so what aspects do you think should come into play? Uh, the including the financial aspects.
Oh, okay. I'll answer this later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, first thing is what's your goal, right? So if you want to if you want to stay abroad, then definitely money definitely is a factor. But then there are ways that you can actually get some scholarship and things like that that can kind of help you out there. But simply money is also not a like a main criteria. There are other important factors, visas and long term immigration visa and things like that. So have different different countries have different approach to this. So some countries, even though you want to come to that country, but their immigration system is such that it will actually kind of preclude you from trying to apply there. It's just like the system is so complex. But there are certain countries which provide you like a same level of education, same quality of education, and half the cost, and also you can you study and then you can come back to to your home country to implement it also. So you have to look at all those things. So first thing, planning is, if you really wanted to leave India, if you want to stay outside of the you just want to live outside, then you have to think that way, then you make a plan. But
Sorry
education.
if I my question was very broad. Let's stick to planning in this respect. As to when it comes to planning, if you're
Mhm.
doing architecture, and when it comes to planning, how does it apply to planning as such? Moving abroad, studying abroad, and then coming back to India, and in terms of planning as a stream.
Okay. So if you're thinking about planning, so see, planning usually in my experience, and I don't have a formal education, but I have worked with enough planners and I've worked on several projects that I kind of know a little bit about it now. Um, so that the tools, the principles, they are always same, irrespective wherever you can learn. You can learn from India, you can learn from Europe, you can learn from US, Australia, wherever. It it's not going to change. What changes is your society, because you are planning for your society. You're planning for people. So your society changes, your political framework changes, and then your economic framework changes, right? Those are the three major, like I can group those under three major items, that these are the factors that basically make a difference. So let's say if you study in US, and I can give an example of US since I have more experience here. Although I have some experience in Saudi Arabia also, but US is primarily our my major focus. So here, if you study for 2 years of planning, you can learn some tools which you can also learn in India. You can learn all those principles, but unless you live in US and work in US, then you can actually take the learning of the working culture, thoughts and ideas, your new ideas. Your ideas takes actually time to change in your mind. So if you are groomed in India for, let's say, at the age of 23 or 24, when you kind of do your master's degree, till 23 years of age, you kind of develop one set of ideas in your mind, right? It takes a while to kind of learn and adapt to new ideas. So you go, you study, you practice there for at least few years, let's say 5 years at least, and then if you come back, then you can actually contribute really good to your society. So that's one way of looking at things, that you do have to practice there, and then I think you can actually make your education more worth it, because you not only you are taking just the theoretical knowledge, but you're also taking some practical aspect of it. But then you, as a planner, wherever in whichever market you work, like in India, every state has different rules and regulation also, so different kind of a political framework system too. So wherever you practice, you just have to learn these three your social structure, your political. Unless there is a political will, your project won't go further after from the nice brochure or nice book that you publish. It won't go beyond that.
Yeah,
So that's
thank
also
you.
very important.
Yeah.
So that's my take on that.
Yeah, thank you, Mohit. So both Amita and Mohit, they said that when you go abroad and you work, then you bring your learnings to your own country. So that is also one part of it. So whether you study and then you work for a certain duration or you just work, those are the learnings you can come back to your country and apply, and those are really valuable. Sudhin, you want to add something to it? You are on mute, Sudhin.
Yeah, I wanted to mention 2 points. Now, unlike architecture, there are certain constraints as far as planning projects are concerned, because you see, planning projects are majorly large scale projects and the clients are typically governments. Unlike in architecture, where projects can come from the private sector, projects can come from the governments. But in planning, because the scope and scale of the projects is fairly large, and as Mohit mentioned, they impact economies, they impact societies, they impact cultures. So typically, the projects are from the governments. Now, governments are also prescriptive in nature. Now, to answer your question regarding this education aspect, so if one decides to go abroad, he can definitely learn the fundamentals, I would say progressive fundamentals, in more developed economies. But as far as practice is concerned, I think so if you have not practiced in India, then you will be constrained. So you need, and just to add on to Mohit's point, you need to be clear why you are going. If you are going for education, go there with an open mind, learn and come back. But be prepared for constraints. If you are going to settle down abroad, then the world is yours. You have to learn to do things differently, because because the other country may have a different set of prescriptions as compared to the ones you have been used to. The standards are different, the policies are different, the the programs are different. So just to add on to what he said, the environments are different. प्लानिंग के प्रोजेक्ट्स गवर्नमेंट के प्रोजेक्ट्स होंगे और दूसरी तरह से चलेंगे. आर्किटेक्चर के प्रोजेक्ट्स लिबरल होंगे. You can, even if you come from the US, you can practice a lot what you have learned in the US, but that may not necessarily be in the case of a planning project.
Thank you, Sudhin. Very valuable addition. Amita, you want to add? You also want to add something?
Actually, I want to build on Sudhin's point here, and Mohit's point also. You know that tools, for example, could be similar, but practicing environment is hugely different. Hugely different. In terms of what I can say is that data availability, for example, for planners, that's the most important thing. So the kind of data that you get in abroad and the kind of data you work with in India, there is a huge limitation. It's not for architecture projects at all, because you can get the data on the site. But when you work on large scale planning projects, even a simple thing like a DEM, like an elevation model, it's not an easy thing. I'm just telling you, I'm just saying that, when you come back from the US after an education and you want to practice in India, there is a relearning and there is certain unlearning that will be involved, because when we work in India, we work with a lot of constraints in terms of data availability, in terms of even software availability, I would say that. Because governments don't work on these fancy softwares, they work on, if even if it's GIS work, they won't work on ArcGIS, they'll work on QGIS. And even for QGIS, they won't know it. So I'm just saying it that, in terms of software and tools learning, maybe it's a good idea, but when you come back, there is a lot of relearning and unlearning as well that is involved. In our country, a lot of political motivation is there. In terms of projects, the projects run on, as on yesterday kind of a timeline. So I'm just saying that there's a lot of synergy that has to be brought in when you come back from abroad. What you can learn from abroad is the way they operate. It's the way the system runs so smoothly, the way they collaborate, the way they brainstorm. and the way they bring several expertise on board into a single project, which is what I feel in sometimes in Indian projects we lack. We look at, a team leader as an urban planner, we forget to include an environmental planner. It's just how the system works. So I'm just saying that that particular thing, if we can learn from there and bring it back, that would be great. But in terms of tools and constraints, huge gap.
Yeah, very well said, Amita. Yeah, we do know that there are some shortcomings in our country, and then obviously if we learn how others do things better and we can bring it back to our country and apply it here, nothing better than that. तो इन अ नटशेल प्लानिंग वो सब कुछ है जिससे कि एक बिल्डिंग में रहने वाले लोगों की लाइफ इजी होती है, उसका बाहर का एनवायरनमेंट कंड्यूसिव बनता है रहने के लिए, है ना। आर्किटेक्ट बिल्डिंग डिजाइन करता है, बिल्डिंग तक कैसे पहुंचेंगे, बिल्डिंग में कैसे रिसोर्सेज आएंगे, बिल्डिंग में कैसे वेस्ट जाएगा, ये सब कुछ एक प्लानर डिजाइन करता है, उसका स्केल बहुत बड़ा होता है। नाउ इट्स अप टू यू टू डिसाइड वेदर यू वांट टू stay in that building, design that building, or you want to expand your horizons. There is no right answer to it. It's up to you. It's your wish. It's your choice. It's your liking. So quickly, and then I'll have one or two more questions with you guys, and then quickly we'll open the forum for questions from students. A project which you think, just in one line or two lines, which you think is really memorable for you, or it left a lasting impact on your lives. Mohit, over to you.
Okay, so if you ask me, so I did a project in Saudi Arabia. It's an industrial master plan. So the thing that I liked about the plan is the scale of the project. It's about 650 square kilometer master plan of the industrial area. It's like a huge, like massive plan, like kind of once in a lifetime project. Um, so there I was exposed to a lot of different, like a geopolitics and like we're talking about. Like a mineral hub where you want to bring minerals from somewhere deep in Saudi Arabia to the port and things like that. But I don't want to go into that detail. The technicalities was really enriching, and working with people from all continents. That was actually pretty amazing experience in Saudi Arabia. Like in just that team, we had team from the pretty much from all the continents. So that was the best part.
Thank you, Mohit. Amita, what about you?
I would like to talk about one project, as Sonal said, in a nutshell. We've recently finished that project. It was a flood inundation mapping project. It came to us from the Chennai Metropolitan Development Authority. For the first time, they wanted to link flood inundation with urban planning. So in India itself, that attempt has been very, I would say, on a very slow scale. So from a water resource management, we brought the modelers in, we brought the hydrologists in, we also brought the hydrogeologists in to create an integrated model of groundwater, surface water, stormwater drain network, and whatnots. And then after all, it was, after all that expertise was involved, ultimately it's a land use planning project wherein you give development control guidelines and you come out with, what can we do in those areas which come up as inundated areas after all of these studies. And it was a fantastic experience to work with that kind of a multidisciplinary approach on an urban planning project. I would say that this is something that one should emulate on a very large scale. That should happen throughout the country, where we have to bring in sustainability experts, we have to bring in surface water management, groundwater management, wastewater management, all together into a single project, and then look at urban planning and how we can moderate our cities. So this is one experience that was a fantastic experience.
Interesting, Amita. Ashish.
Thank you so much. I think my experience is very different from the kind of project or the scale Amita was talking about. So I will talk about one project which we did a long time back. So in my career, I started off as a valuation and consulting professional with one of the IPCs. So one of the project which we did was a valuation of a very large portfolio for a corporate. So that portfolio was spread all across the country. It has large industrial lands which has to be disposed of. So it was basically for monetization of those land parcel. Valuation has to be conducted, but the purpose was monetization of assets. And these were like even residential apartments, bungalows, some commercial property. So it was regarding entire portfolio. So till then, I was majorly part of valuations. So we used to do valuation, and you've done valuation, and you push the buck to the other guy. You have to sell it. So this is my valuation. But now here we realize the valuation which we gave to the client, and then subsequently the mandate was also to us to sell. And when we went into negotiations, talking, and so, for example, you've given a valuation, and the client said, I remember the CEO said, "Ki, Ashish, now that you've given me a valuation, I've gone to my board, board has approved it. So it is like a toothpaste. You can only get the paste out of toothpaste, you can't put it back. So if you have said the value of this asset is 500 crore, so now I can sell it at 500 crore, but I cannot sell it a rupee less. So that is my challenge. So that is where I learned about that, and that was a project which taught me so many things, because now not just valuation, and we have to sell entire portfolio. And when we say entire portfolio, it is not the marquee properties in the portfolio which has to be disposed of. Even a property which was, let's say, located in a remote part of the country and it is only 50 lakhs. In order to have a successful portfolio disposition of entire asset, you have to sell even that 50 lakh apartment. So that is what was a very interesting experience for me. And for the first time in my career, apart from valuation, feasibility study, I got involved in transactions. And we were very successfully able to not just do a valuation, but disposition of that entire portfolio. And we have to do disposition because what I realized, all the brokers within the firm were very happy to dispose of that marquee assets, which will give you a very good brokerage. But that 50 lakh apartment, nobody wants to sell. And being the client manager, I have to do everything. So for the first time in my career, I, apart from being an architect, urban planner, I also got into transactions.
Thank you, Ashish. Very interesting. Sudhi.
One project which is quite close to my heart is I was a part of the team for delivering urban transport and urban development projects in the city of Gwalior. Now, as most of us may know, Gwalior has a very strong heritage component. So all the projects that we designed over there were designed keeping in mind the the heritage and the culture of the city. It was an interesting experience of how something like culture and something like heritage can impact urban development projects, how people take the common people of the city take these projects, and how people are sensitive towards their cities. That is something I learned. I was not aware of this interesting aspect. Happy to share more details in a subsequent talk. But yes, that is one project which is really close to my heart.
Thank you, Sudhin. Manju.
Sonal, for me, frankly, it's really difficult to choose from. I have been very lucky to work on very diverse and very interesting projects. But if I had to pick one, I would choose the National Spatial Strategy and the Planning Act for Saudi Arabia. It's very rare that we as planners get to work at a national level, and it's a different kind of learning. For me, it was really very exciting to be able to basically understand how a national vision, the political leadership, how a national policy guidelines, etc., fit into all the way to regional plan, to metropolitan plans, to sectoral plans, coming all the way down to neighborhood level local plans. So it was a full national spatial strategy that we worked on, and on the sides we had to outline the legal aspects, the legalities of a planning act, as to how all of this will sort of come together in reality. So it was not a desktop exercise of policy and plans only, but at the same time it was a regulatory document that we had to prepare as to how to implement the entire strategy with the help of a new act of the nation. So that I think I was lucky to be a part of that prestigious project.
Thank you, Manju. It is interesting to note how the scale of your projects, which and it's so they are so multidisciplinary in nature that you are not able to contain your project within two sentences. You have to speak a paragraph to actually summarize your projects. So that itself tells you about how planning is vis-a-vis architecture. Uh, Now we can open the forum for questions from students. Yeah, anybody?
Faculty, anyone in the audience is welcome to shoot questions at the panelists.
We can keep on talking if you don't have any questions. We have a lot to give.
Let's go on.
Okay,
That's
great.
absolutely true, I would say.
So now, see, planning, like any other field, planning is also evolving. So, right, for example, right now, there is a lot of talk about sustainability. We have reached a point where sustainability is taking precedence over everything else in any project. So, whenever we start a project or we start an idea, we say that, okay, now how are we going to take sustainability into picture? How are we going to do environmental, social governance? How are we going to take these aspects into integrate these aspects into your project? So, do you think in your respective streams this has really taken a front seat, and how do you see it getting implemented in your work area? And what is your suggestion to these future architects as to what how they can add to your qualification, how they can add to their qualification to be ready for the world, to be ready for the professional world with this changing scenario? Manju, I think we have lost Manju. She's on the road driving. So can we start with you, Sudeep?
Yeah, thank you, Sonal. I think so. These are very relevant issues. Both environment and sustainability are increasingly becoming very are being scrutinized very very closely when developing either large scale or small scale projects. So, as far as these budding architects are concerned, I would say that first of all, they need to sensitize themselves towards these issues. I'm not aware whether these are touched upon by the faculty or not, but start reading about these issues. And what I can think of is when you are doing design, you can think about the environment, you can think about how you can reduce the load of electricity, how can you reduce the use of water, how you can reduce the use of other non sustainable materials. You can think innovation in terms of materials, you can think innovation in terms of resources. That is the way I would respond as far as the introduction of the budding architects is concerned. Coming to my field, yes, the transportation sector is slowly graduating towards a more sustainable way of delivery of service. Electric vehicles, both personal vehicles as well as public transport vehicles, is slowly catching up in India. They are already in use extensively in several developed countries, but they are also catching up in India. So the sector as such is responding by increased use of electric vehicles to attend to the sustainability agenda in my
Thank you.
sector.
Yeah, thank you, Sudeep. Sudhin. So, Ashish, over to you. So, what do you think specifically in your sector? How are you integrating sustainability? And have you added your qualification, or how have you upgraded yourself to include this aspect?
Yeah, thank you so much, Sonal. I think it's a very relevant and very important discussion which you have taken up. But before that, let me just move to the earlier part when you were talking about that the scenario is changing and sustainability is the talk of the town, I think. So if you see, even sustainability is not becoming important, sustainability in itself is changing. So I remember when we were in colleges, we used to talk about sustainability. We used to talk about passive architecture, vernacular architecture. Subsequently, it was talk about green buildings. Subsequently, after Paris Agreement and COP various meetings, now we are talking about net zero. Presently, now we are not just talking about green building, we are talking about blue buildings. We are talking about net zero. We are talking about embodied carbon, operational carbon, circular economy. We are talking about net zero. So there is such a huge vocabulary of sustainability which is there, and I think more and more things are coming and becoming relevant. So that was one part how sustainability is moving. I personally feel if you talk about sustainability, then when we talk about sustainability, circular economy becomes very important, and that has been traditionally what has been happening in India. If you remember, हमारे यहाँ तो कबाड़ भी मतलब वेस्ट नहीं होता था, कबाड़ी वाला ले लेता था. और आप मेरे ख्याल से मैंने तो शायद अपना पहला कोट भी अपने चाचा का पहना था, तो दैट वाज आल्सो रिसाइकल. So that is what our Indian traditional way of thing was, and it was very circular economy kind of concept, which becomes very relevant. Now coming back to your question, how it is very important in real estate, and I will say in built environment sector. So if you say even buildings, we talk about buildings are like they consume about 40% of the total energy global consumption. They are one of the biggest contributor to global warming, CO2. Construction waste is one of the biggest uh, thing which goes to the
So,
landfills,
Ashish,
etc.
we'll just stick to how in real estate your particular stream. How are you in
Yes,
transaction
yes, sure.
advisory, valuation? How are you incorporating sustainability, and is there any upgradation required in skill set for doing that?
Absolutely. Sure. Thank you so much, Sonal, for bringing me back. You are right. So now, if you see in building sector, so I was reading one of the reports by JLL, and it said about total grade A office stock which is there in India, 40% of more than that is green buildings now. So one, green buildings are becoming very important, and green building that it is not the regulatory thing which is making it important. It is the demand which is coming from the clients. So if you have look at the total scenario which is happening in real estate now, institutional investors, REITs, etc., are coming, and all these institutional investors, a big corporate, they all want LEED certified buildings and everything, and also now ESG reporting, etc. Companies that becoming compulsory and very important. So if you see, and we talk, and for this, I think we as real estate professionals, as architects, have to keep on upgrading our knowledge. There are various kind of certifications which are happening. For example, if you are designing, you can do certification from Greha. You can be Edge. IFC has now come up with Edge, another rating system which is there. So you could do those kind of trainings, and you have to keep on upgrading yourself. Also, I'll just take last 1 second. Today, if you go out and see into the world, it is a gig economy, and it is not the degree which you have is relevant from where you have done. It is the competencies which you have and the knowledge which you have, which in turn means that you have to keep on upgrading your skills. And you rightly said, sustainability is important, and sustainability related education and upgradation is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish. So we'll take the quick answer from you, Amita, and then we will shift to another question. Yeah.
Yes, sure. So, from the planning perspective, I'm basically an urban planner, so I'm also practicing as an urban planner. I would say sustainable development goals, climate action plans, uh, climate smart urbanization. There are so many frameworks that are now being adopted by cities, where they are looking at, how can we be more smart, and they are talking about green infrastructure, resilient infrastructure. There is an entire stream of resilient planning. So we are looking at, how can we be more resilient to environmental changes or climate changes that our planet is going to face. So there is no two ways about it. So I would say that, these frameworks are available to study across the board. So there is nothing in terms of a course that you need to take up. If you are interested in taking up and understanding urban planning and how a city should react, or how a human habitat should react to these changes. There are several documents available from the World Bank, from the ADB, from the C40. So there are several climate smart urbanization frameworks that are going around at the moment. We have just started working with the GIZ, that's the German bank, on a project on nature-based solutions and how we can incorporate it into urbanization frameworks. So I'm just saying that these are some of the aspects that are going around, and if there is an interest, there is a whole lot of material that is available for self-study. There are several courses that one can take up in edX or Demi, or those kind of platforms where you upgrade yourself. One thing is that these are underlying concepts. They are not something that you superimpose on a project. It is something that is underlying. It has to be there. So now our system has reached to a stage where we are on the brink of breaking. So we really can't ignore any of these aspects. So this is underlying principles now, instead of saying that we have to superimpose environmental sustainability. It is somewhere embedded in all the projects.
Thank you, Amita. Quickly to you, Mohit, what do you think is the most urgent planning stream in today's world? Which you think is like, we have so many streams, like, for example, in our time, it was difficult. Transport planning and urban planning were considered to be the most difficult streams to get into. So, for various reasons. So, from work perspective, which stream do you think is most relevant in today's time?
So the way I like to answer this question, Sonal, I want to throw a little bit of googly here, like a curveball. In baseball, like in the US, they say like a curveball in baseball. Uh, so you like you've been hearing about this Chat GPT and AI. So I think use of AI in planning industry, especially the use in like data analytics. I think that would be like a new future, for this industry. I don't know how much it is developed because I am not in the true planning profession, and I think Amita and Manju probably be more qualified to answer that. But I see like traces of that kind of like in the planning world. They are talking about it, and the companies that I've worked for previously, they are also working on those kind of concepts and trying to implement in urban planning profession. So I think use of artificial intelligence and tools developed from that could be something game changer down the road.
Thank you, Mohit. Yeah, Amita, you want to add?
Yes, coming from the digital technology point of view, now we are looking at something called digital twins. So in urban infrastructure sector, it is gaining popularity, where we are creating digital twins of water supply systems, sewerage systems, integrating them with the urban planning ideas. So something like this is now catching up. We from Cube's perspective, where I work, we are located in a innovation hub. We are a part of IIT Madras Research Park. So all these new ideas, they keep happening in terms of where you work and the kind of people you interact with. There is a lot of difference that brings to table, in terms of an innovation environment. So place of choice of work also becomes important in that aspect, I would say. So as I said, the digital technology is definitely IoT based. The smart cities didn't catch up per se, but IoT based monitoring of flood levels, of wastewater incursions, all of this is gaining momentum in the urban planning sector. And definitely there is a whole lot of scope in gaining that knowledge and moving towards that in terms of a professional.
Thank you, Amita. Thank you for adding that value. Now, any suggestions, any comments from our audience? Anything they want to add, contribute? Any experience, any kind of comment, contribution is welcome.
We had a question, very interesting question by Tushita, who's joined the discussion recently. And she's addressed this to Sudhindra. Tushita is our batchmate, by the way, and I'm very happy that she's able to join. And I think that question, although Sudhindra has answered that question on the chat, I think it's very relevant for everyone to hear. So the question goes like this. Do you expect to see self-driving cars anytime soon? As a transport planner, are you thinking of building transport plans with self-driving cars? So that's for Sudhindra.
Yeah, thank you, Tushita, for the question. I would say it's a distant dream as far as India is concerned, because the type of constraints under which self-driving cars can function is still not resolved in our country. We have a lot of traffic heterogeneity. We do not have uniformity as far as design standards are concerned. The civic sense and the public and the driving sense required for successful implementation of self-driving cars is still not there in the country. So I would put it this way: there may be some pilot projects in terms of these new expressways which are coming up. Maybe it may be given a try over there, where lane discipline can be followed to a certain degree, because self-driving cars, they need one of the prerequisites is that lane discipline has to be followed. So at a country level, probably not, but at a project level or at a pilot project level, probably yes, we may see them soon. Is my informed guess, I would say.
Tushita, you
I'm
want to
not
say?
personally involved in any of
Yeah.
these.
Yeah. Hi, Tushita.
Okay.
You want to say something?
Yeah, I basically the thing that bugs me is not the technical capabilities, but the planning and legal aspects of it. Have you ever heard, any of you, of any government discussions going on the legalities of allowing self-driving cars? This is not like a Tesla, which you need to have a person who knows how to drive, but a regular self-driving car. I know they're doing pilots in San Francisco, but I think the legalities and the planning aspects would delay it, and that's where I was going.
Correct, correct. So I personally have not been involved, and whatever literature I have read, uh, not much attention is going on self-driving cars, at least in India for now, because we are focused on other aspects, and the current focus is on electric vehicles. Self-driving cars, we are still to explore. Very briefly, this is the way I would answer it.
We have another question, though it is for architects, but if anybody in the panel wants to take it. And the question is from Lakshay. AI can see soon replace an architect's capabilities for design. How can we keep in the loop despite the newer competitive technologies? Anybody wants to answer that? Yasuddin.
Yeah, thank you. Interesting question. I read a quote from Mr. Narayan Murthy, who is the ex CEO of Infosys, on this aspect of AI, and his response was, "There's nothing as of now, and there is nothing which will ever be in the future which can match the human mind. So come AI or no AI, I don't think so. An AI can never match an architect as far as visioning is concerned, as far as conceptualization is concerned, and as far as innovation is concerned. ये सब होता रहेगा, आर्किटेक्ट्स चलते रहेंगे.
Very encouraging response. Amita, you want to add to it? You are mute, Amita.
Sorry, this brings me back to the time when we had just passed out and CAD was just coming in picture, and we thought that CAD will replace us in a way. It would we would become just draftsmen and CAD would do the. If somehow it has happened, and a lot of the designs are guided by CAD. But I would say that human intelligence has never. It's just a tool in our hands. So we have to take AI. We have to take these are tools. We don't have to compromise on our intelligence or our innovation capabilities. It totally depends on how we deal with it. So I would say that it's the humans have to keep thinking, and let not the AI do the thinking. The AI is a tool in our hands. We have to use it well. We have to definitely use it well to better our society, to better our habitats, to better our settlements. But it definitely cannot take over human minds. Not in a
Mohit.
million years.
Yeah, thank you, Amita. Yeah. Mohit, you want to add?
Yeah, I want to actually second what Amita just said, and on top of that, I also want to add that, like, do not resist the use of AI. Try to
And
embrace it. Try to embrace it and use it to your advantage. Architecture, I think, it's one of the safest profession where AI will have a really hard time replacing architects. So I think you don't have to worry about that, at least in your generation. But do not resist it. Try to embrace it and use it to your advantage.
Thank you, Mohit. Tushita, you want to add to it? Tushita, your hand is raised.
Yeah,
Go.
yeah. Uh, yes, I think I second Mohit, but then there is also this thing of the one thing we need to stick with is learning how to change, because the world's going to change really, really fast in the next few years. So the one thing that architecture teaches you is design thinking, which pays a lot in the long term. So the ability to learn to handle how to approach a project will turn more and more important than from what is the project you're doing. And that is something I think we need to focus on learning more and more. AI is going to change things, and nobody knows which jobs will exist or not exist. That's my personal opinion, and that's what I'm hearing a lot.
Yeah.
Not to get afraid of it, embrace it, but also focus on the ability to learn and ability to find processes on how to learn rather than what is it that you're learning
So
would
I think
become
that,
more and more critical.
yeah, the take from this is that we are masters and we will remain masters and we should remain masters. So let's not lose that. Let us treat AI like a tool, like everybody else mentioned, and let's use it wisely. So, thank you. Any other?
Devarshi has a point. He's just
Oh,
raised
yeah,
his hand.
Yeah.
Hi,
Yeah, hi.
Devarshi.
Am I audible? Hello.
Hello, Devashi. Yes.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to add a point here. I said, I think, yeah, AI is definitely gonna come up, and there will be a lot of improvement as to whatever we are trying to say right now, that we are human and we can do more thinking. But I think they can definitely come up and catch up with us. What is important right now as students of architecture and us as professionals of architecture is that
Devashi, can you be a
we
little
should.
louder? Your voice is fading.
I am actually outside, so yeah, maybe I'm not able to. Are you able to hear me now? Am I better?
Yeah, it's okay. Go on. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So I think what is important right now is that we should not become too much dependent on AI or things like this, because what I see, even when the students are coming up, they're too much dependent on plugins for a software rather than applying their own minds. So that is very important that we keep learning ourselves as well, and not really start completely thinking, stop thinking and dependent on AI to suggest what strategies we should take for a project, say, you know. So that is very important that we also keep thinking ourselves and keep racking our brains and not completely stop using our brains ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the key is to use our brain and not rely on AI's brain. So,
No, no, you can take suggestions from them, but yeah, you should completely stop being dependent. Like we can't remember mobile numbers anymore. Earlier we could. So things like that.
yeah. Thank you, Devashi.
Um, I just want to add something. Sorry. Hi. So I recollect Amita's point, and Amita said that the surge of AI reminds us of how CAD made us a little insecure when we were graduating, right? But newer technologies always mean newer innovations. Today we see a surge in parametric architecture. Would it have been possible without AutoCAD at that point of time, right? We also looking at printed architecture, and of course AutoCAD would have been the sort of the primitive form of it. But today printed architecture is possible because of digitization of drawings, right? Digital making of drawings. So I guess there's never going to be a dearth of what a human mind can do with newer tools. They can innovate something that we had never thought of. Printed architecture is something that we had not heard of before. I mean, couldn't have even thought about it. But it's being tried in India, and that's great. So yeah, I mean, newer technologies plus the human mind is innovation.
Thank you. Thank you, Jitin. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, participants. It was great having you on a Saturday morning and for you to take out time from from your weekend. And great to have ended this discussion with the most recent topic of AI and relevance of it in architecture. Now I'll pass this forum over to Jitendra, who has been you can say, who has been a very key player from our batch in organizing all of this, on putting the background work in making all this possible, all these panel discussions possible. And we hope that we start a trend with this year and we contribute in building our alma mater further. Over to you, Jitendra.
Thank you. But I also see Tushita and Devarshi have raised their hands. I'd like them speak first. Tushita, Devarshi. I don't know if it's from before, but usually they go off after you've spoken. So, Tushita, were you saying something? Cool. It may have been a mistake. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, I'd like to extend my thanks to the college, to the person who inspired us to take this up and not just come for 3 days or 2 days to the college and have a reunion, but actually reunite for the whole year, emotionally and intellectually. So we've been doing a lot of activities, fun activities within our batch. Most of it is available to see online on our YouTube channel. But we are also thought that meeting of the minds is what we really needed. And I think this panel discussion has allowed us. There's a lot of preparation that our panelists have put in. There's a lot of work that they have put in. All of them are in different time zones. Mohit, it's Friday evening and must be around 12:30, past midnight for you. Dubai has a different time zone, but to kind of coordinate all of that relentlessly and ensure that whether we are driving with kids on board or otherwise, we are available. I think that was a great thing. And I think it could have only have happened because we were all genuinely interested in coming together and giving back in some way, whether it's 2 a.m. Sorry, Mohit. Yes. Okay. So it's 2 a.m. there. He's finished. He had to watch Sholay, all of it, 3 hours to wait for this panel to start. And I don't know if he'd be able to sleep well now, but we wish that you're able to. So this has only been possible because the panelists were equally thrilled and equally excited, to come together and talk and kind of give back as much as they have taken from the college. So thank you so much, panelists. Thank you, Dr. Anjaney Sharma. Thank you. And I'd not be able to thank enough the Dean of Architecture who was here and I don't know if she's here or not, but Professor Gulati, Professor Vandana Sehgal, who've been very supportive. Ours was the first batch, I guess, or the second batch who had the privilege of studying from Professor Vandana Sehgal, and I think we are very indebted to her because in some ways I believe that she had healed us. I don't know what, but we all had some traumas going on, and I think her presence in classroom had healed us, and I think she's brought about a huge change to college, and all the development that we see is amazing. So thank you so much, everybody, and yeah, we look forward to having more such panels. The second panel, Dr. Anjaney Sharma can tell us when would he allow us to have a second panel on a different topic.
Yes, sir. So also on behalf of Vanda ma'am and Gulati ma'am, they both are engaged in the meeting. So we apologize for not being here. So I, on behalf of them, thank you all the panelists and all the participants who have been here. And this was a very wonderful discussion, of course. And of course, we can take up more questions, and we can in future mail to the participants. And the participants can also mail us their questions in case if they have more queries, more questions in future. I hope all the panelists would be willing to answer to their queries in future. And other than that, Atul sir have also conveyed his best wishes and thank you for organizing this panel. And because Jiten sir have already thanked everyone, I would like to thank you to really be in a pivotal supportive role in organizing all this panel discussion. And I think we hope to see such discussions in near future very soon. So thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Yep, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, bye everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye bye, everybody. Thank you.